Welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to debone and portion two 10-pound hams. Don't forget to like the video, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one, where I'll be using the bones to make baked beans. I had planned on buying one ham for Thanksgiving, but when I saw these on sale, I couldn't help but get two. I've wanted to make ham bone beans for quite a while now, and with the help of a vacuum sealer, I'll be able to keep all this meat from getting freezer burn for quite a long time. Disclaimer, I guess, I'm not a trained butcher or a trained anything for that matter. I'm sure there is a perfect way to carve meat, and chances are, this won't be it. All I can offer in this video is to show you how I approached the task at hand, what I learned along the way, and how it turned out. Let's get started. The first thing I do is look for the white connective tissue between the different muscles. I'm trying to find the closest line to the outside, and follow that from one end of the bone to the other, cutting as close to the bone as possible. Once I have a small channel, I find it helps to pull it apart with your hands and try and work your fingers around the bone between cuts. It should go without saying, but be very careful not to cut yourself. Growing up, I remember more than one Thanksgiving dinner where Dad was in a rush to try and debone the hams and nearly deboned himself in the process. Now for a little do as I say, not as I do. If you get ham fat on your knife handle because you've been using both hands to pull the meat away from the bone, just stop and take 30 seconds to wash up. I'm not too proud to admit that I nearly slipped a few times while filming this video, just because I didn't want to take the time to wash my hands again. Maybe it's hereditary. Anyway, I wanted to show you how to get the bone out of these hams in a way that you could still glaze them whole for a big Thanksgiving dinner, or tie them up with butcher's twine and rotisserie them on a barbecue, even though I'll be cutting them up later in the video. If you don't care about keeping the hams intact, you can just cut a big chunk of meat out of one side to get access to the bone, then cut wide around it and just trim off the excess meat later. It all just depends on how you want to serve it. The first bone came out okay, but it had a little bit too much meat left on it, which is a really easy fix. And now it's time to do it all again. You would think after a practice run I'd be better at this, but here we go. Find the white connective tissue that separates the muscles. Look for the one closest to the bone, then try to follow it from one end to the other. Except this ham had some sort of gross jelly consistency, kind of dark red colored substance right along the side, and a little bit into the meat. If I had to take a guess, I think maybe it's a little bit of blood that stayed in an artery and didn't get properly drained when the pig was initially butchered. But if you know what it is, then please let me know in the comments. I don't expect that it's unsafe to eat, but the texture was very unpleasant to the touch, and I have no plans of seeing what it tastes like, so I'll be removing any that I find. I wasn't sure how far it had permeated into the meat at this point, so I decided to try cutting the bone out a little differently. I started by cutting all the way around the ends of the bone, then cutting a chunk of meat off the closest section to the edge. Once I got a good look inside and saw that everything looked edible, I went back to the original cut and pull method, but kept trimming off as much of the red stuff as possible. I'm putting these two bones in the fridge overnight because I won't be ready to make baked beans for a day or two. I didn't see much point in vacuum sealing them for such a short time, but if you're putting yours in the freezer, it might be worth the effort. Next up, I'm going to trim these two hams into approximately 2-pound portions because that's about how much ham I can eat before I start to get tired of it. I'll try to keep some of it in one piece just in case I want to glaze them under a broiler, but some's just going to end up as chunks and slices, and I can put that into macaronis and quiches and all kinds of things. While you can eat the outer rind, I usually trim the thicker or tougher parts off, like these folds around the narrow end, just because they're unpleasantly chewy. I was also a little more overzealous with my trimming because of that red stuff. It would be really off-putting to bite into a ham sandwich and think, I don't remember adding sauce to this. I generally leave most of the fat on, but this comes down to personal preference and how you plan on preparing it. If you're cooking a glaze onto your ham, you probably want to leave all the fat to keep it from drying out, but if you're making sandwiches, you might want to trim a little off. In my case, if the fat is firm and it slices the same way the meat does, I generally keep it. If it's really hard, which usually happens near the skin, or if it's kind of gelatinous and gooey, I don't. As for the other scraps, my dog's never complained about getting a few ham trimmings in her dinner. And if your ham has a really big fat cap, and you really don't want to eat it, you could always cut it off and render it down in a pan. I've still got a jar of hickory smoked ham fat in the fridge from the last ham that I bought, and I can't even begin to tell you how good a grilled cheese tastes using that as butter. But that's for another video. Let me know if you found any of this helpful, and if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe for more homemade food. See you next time.